Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to our community. Coming to you from the I've Decided Studios. Our community is sponsored by I've Decided and the Greater Peoria Family YMCA. Hello, I'm Andy Thornton, President and CEO of the Greater Peoria Family YMCA. Do you desire to increase your value with others? Are you interested in increasing the likelihood that people will want to spend time with you or maybe even listen to what you have to say? I think everybody wants to do that. Well, in today's show, hopefully we're going to give you a better understanding of how important it is to be personable so that you can attract others and increase your influence. Becky, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
I'm happy to be here, Andy.
We're glad to have you. So joining me today is Becky Rossman. I know many of you out there know Becky. Becky is currently the CEO of PCAV, Peoria Community Against Violence. Yes. But I also know that you have recently started a new CEO consulting business, right?
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
Veteran CEO Consulting. Kind of play on the fact that I am a veteran of the Army.
Cool.
But I've also been a CEO for 17 years.
You have.
I've been consulting for quite a while on board development, strategic planning, and capacity building. So I just decided to formalize that. And I have a couple other fun irons going right now. Yeah. So just determining
my next step. You're kind of exploring, right?
Yeah.
Looking around, looking for some opportunities. No matter what you do, you're going to be great at it. There's no doubt about that. You. But I'm excited to have you here today because as I was preparing for the show, and I always use Kim's article at the beginning of the week to kind of set the tone for the discussion. And then the weekly winning word this week is personable. And when I think about that word, and we define personable as attractive to other people because of having a pleasant and friendly manner, I thought, Becky is that person. And you really are. I mean, you're easy to get along with. You're easy to talk to. You just have a great personality about you, and you're very personable. And today's show, we're going to talk about why it's important to be personable and how that can help you be successful. And I think that it's not something that we often think about. And this is something that I struggle with a little bit.
Really?
Yeah,
I do. Think you're very personable.
Well, I appreciate that. But I think I have personal attributes, but I also have an RBF.
Oh, I don't.
You know what I mean?
I know what that is.
You know what that is, right? I mean, I think everybody out there knows what that is. So I don't always project it outwardly, even though I have maybe some of those things internal. So I have to really work at that to be engaging and in that way. It's something that I just have to really
be intentional about.
Yeah, very. And I think that that's the point of even the conversation today is it's about being intentional, right? And those are some of the things that I took from reading Kim's article, and I hope that we can talk about a little bit today. So one of the things that, to be personable requires intentionality. In all of our relationships, we have to be empathetic with others. And this is an area where I think you're great at, because your role with PCAV, you have to have tremendous empathy to do what you do, right? In that space. In order for people to trust you, to confide in you, they've got to see you as a person who understands what they're going through.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't imagine what our families are going through. But, just being there and being a good, active listener. Mm-hmm. I do agree with what you're saying about like being intentional. Mm-hmm. So something I used to tell my directors at Neighborhood House, you can't let your day determine how you are with people.
Yeah.
And I try to be good about when I go home, even if I've had a bad day or if I had a bad start to my day before I got to work, as I tell my clients, don't bleed on people who didn't cut you. But, just being the same person all the time so people know what to expect.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to separate some of those things, but it's important because there are benefits to being personable, right? And that's what we're going to talk about. The benefits of being personable, how that a personableness, is that even a word? I may have made that up.
It is now.
Maybe making that up, but when you are personable, it's going to help you be successful. And that's the lens that we're kind of talking about that today, right? Is how does being personable help us be successful? Kim wrote a great article, as she always does. And there's kind of 6 elements, 6 attributes, 6 reasons of why it's important to be personable. And I just want to kind of dig into those with you, if that's okay with you.
No, I think that's great. I mean,
so the first one was when we're personable, it helps us foster authentic relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And authentic relationships, when we have authentic relationships with other people, that can help us be successful.
When I was at Neighborhood House, I was forward facing a lot. So I was in a lot of different groups. I think I met you probably in Rotary, if not in the CEO, groups.
For sure.
But I would have my directors go and be outward facing as well. But I told them that the relationships do need to be authentic. So find the group that you fit in with.
Yeah.
And we had a couple that were, they tried a few before they found their people. But just like with Rotary or NABO, it's people I would go out with, personally.
And that is important. We're going through that right now at the Y. A lot of new faces in our leadership team, and really encouraging them to get out, engage. And it's important when we do that as leaders to make sure they understand it's not all about the organization, right? They have to have a connection in order for them to be successful in that space, because we want them to be successful. And as they build those relationships and build out that network, that's going to help them. But it also does help the organization when your staff are engaged community-wide, right? It helps elevate the awareness of the organization and all those things. But authentic relationships are extremely important, but they have to be meaningful.
They do. And, I was lucky that a lot of those relationships followed me from Neighborhood House to PCAV. Sure. But I said, I want to make sure Neighborhood House is still taken care of. But even when my predecessor left, I had to rebuild those relationships, because a lot of people were relationship with him instead of maybe focused on the mission.
Sure.
So that's just a normal.
Yeah, there is. There's always change like that comes. I think when leadership changes, but there's always a core of people who are committed to the organization too, right? And those people are there, and I'm sure you benefited because of some of those relationships that the predecessor has.
Yes.
And people who follow you are going to benefit because of relationships that you've created and the people that you've brought in to serve the mission of those organizations. They're still there, right?
Sustainability plan, but again, the genuineness of relationships.
Yeah, for sure. So another reason why it's important to be personable is because it helps increase your understanding. Right? Understanding of the needs of others that you might be working about, but also the understanding of yourself, which I think is a pretty important point that was brought out in Kim's article, is as you get to know people and understand and engage with people and understand what their needs are and how you might be able to help them, it helps you understand a little bit more about who you are as an individual and what you're passionate about.
And I think that's how you find your people. So I tell my young adult children, just be yourself, and you're going to find the right people. They're going to gravitate towards you because they're going to see something in you they like. Yeah. But I think a lot of times people are maybe acting out a little bit outside their comfort zone or who they are, to try to make people like them. But I'm like,
yeah, I think sometimes we try a little harder than we need to make people like us. And then it's not genuine because we're not necessarily being our true self, like you just mentioned. You have to be intentional. You got to work hard at building relationships with people, but it's got to be who you really are in that effort, not some fake personality that you're trying to exhibit, because that becomes selfish.
It does.
And nobody's going to benefit from that. And there may be some short-term gains that come from that, but that's not going to be sustainable for you or for the organization that you work for. People need to know that they can trust you, that they can believe in you, that what you do and what you say is who you really are and that you really mean, and you're going to follow through.
And it's consistent.
With that. Yeah, consistency is really, really important. But, the part that I opened my eyes up a little bit to when Kim wrote about it is how you understand a little bit more about yourself as you learn about the needs of others and how you might be able to help them and help you maybe even find passions that you have that maybe you didn't even know you had.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with that. And like I said, with PCAV, even though I can't imagine what my families are going through, it's kind of my worst nightmare. I can't imagine getting a call that one of my children had been shot.
Yeah.
But it does make me more understanding of, even though I haven't been in that role and I can't imagine it, of what they're going through or the kind of supports they may need.
Yeah, right. So the next thing is it helps encourage collaboration, which we both of us know is really
Yes.
important, and we believe in collaboration, and we often work together in that space. But when we're personable, it's really essential for us to have effective collaboration, because I think because of the trust that's created between you and the other person that you're working with, or you and the other organization that you're trying to build a collaboration with, which is really important for people too.
Oh, you're one of the best collaborators.
Yeah,
so
I don't know about that.
Well, I think you are. And when I was in Neighborhood House, we actually had 29 organizations inside providing services.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
29?
Mm-hmm. So some people actually had like a little office space in there, and other ones would just come and do an after-school program or whatever was needed.
Yeah.
Even though they were cradle to grave and pets, we couldn't be everything to everyone.
Right.
And then we were actually in 13 other sites providing services.
Yeah.
So that collaboration was key.
Yeah.
But going back to being personable, I like collaborating because I'm like, oh, I get to go hang out with Andy today, or I get to go hang out with Kim, or whoever.
Yeah.
Right. It makes it more enticing.
Yeah. Well, we don't have all the tools that we need to be successful on our own.
No.
And we have to understand and realize that we're all deficient in some way. And so when we can find others who can help fill in some of those gaps, and then it can, where it really gets sweet is when both parties can help each other in that way. And when you do it from the perspective of what's going to make our community better, which is what drives me as the leader of the YMCA, is how can we help make this community stronger, and who can we partner with in that way so that we can bring our resources together and support each other in that way. It really does benefit more people.
It does, like the economies of scale.
Right.
I like what you're saying about knowing who we are and knowing our weaknesses. So whether I'm building a team around me of employees or my board,
right, I'm
well aware of my weaknesses. So I stack up people that have expertise that I don't, which makes the organization stronger.
But you can't do that if you're not personable, because people don't want to be with you if you're not personable, right? And that's the thing, is having that personableness. I'm going to keep using that word because I don't know how else to say it in a more meaningful way. That's what draws people in. And say, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I like working with Becky. I see that she's, trustworthy and that she's passionate about what she's doing, and I can see myself being a part of that. If you didn't have that perspective, then not as many people want to join in on the effort. So it's so important to be intentional about personableness and that attractiveness piece, which is much more than just the physical side of it, right? It's about who you are as a person.
Yeah.
That's going to bring people in, and that's what's going to help with the collaborative effort. I don't know.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm even thinking back to like golf outings. Yeah. I get invited to a lot, and some days I'm a good golfer, but it's not. I don't think it's my golf game they're inviting me for.
Right. People aren't inviting me because of my golf game either, but you're right. You get invited because people just want to be with you, right? And just want to hang out and maybe there's an opportunity to even collaborate while you're going through that experience. So it's exactly right. You want people to feel comfortable with you, and the only way to do that, or the best way to do that, is to make sure that you're really working on the whole effort of being personable.
And I think, being yourself, being vulnerable. I mean, I think that goes along with being personable.
It does.
Because people relate to that, right? We all have these things going on, and I know whether I'm watching TikToks or talking to certain friends, it's nice to know I'm not the only one dealing with certain situations.
Yeah. Well, that's the empathy piece, right? Is making sure people know that you understand what it is that what they're going through, what they're feeling, how they're feeling, because you're willing to be vulnerable and share with them maybe some of the same experiences. Yeah. And that does help draw people in. People really do appreciate that and respect it. I know that I do. And I know that in the relationships that I have, when you can have that kind of symbiotic relationship with others where you're not afraid to share and talk about the challenges of life. Because it's not all peaches and cream, as much as we like to make it out to be. There's challenges that we face every day. And I think that's a big part of just being personal, is being honest.
And it deepens the relationship, right? Sharing those types of things as opposed to small talk when you see people.
Right. 100%. Okay, so then let's move on to the next area, which is personable people help inspire others.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because of the way that you are, I see how much that benefits you, and I want to have some of those attributes. So it can be inspiring for others, which can help inspire a community, right? Or a network of people who are all kind of taking on that attitude and that intentionality of being personable and serving the needs of others can really be an inspiration for a group of people.
I agree, Andy. I had something to say, and I think it left me as quick as it came.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just comes down to, people are drawn to other people who are warm, who are empathetic, who are compassionate, who are positive,
approachable.
Yeah, and that's inspiring. When you have that attitude, that encourages other people to behave the same way.
And I found that, like, most of my, kind of getting off on a tangent, most of my mentors have been great about being personable or approachable. I have never asked anyone for help, and they've said no. Like, usually people are really open to it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you can be a good mentor if you're not personable.
That's true.
Right?
That is true. But like you were saying, seeing someone and wanting to kind of emulate some of those qualities. And that's usually how I pick out my mentors. I'm like, oh, I need to be a little bit better about this.
Right. But thinking about it from the mentor side, which I'm sure you spend time on that side of the table too, right? You've got to be caring. You've got to be intentional. You've got to be open and honest and empathetic towards the people that you're mentoring, or else it's not going to produce a whole lot of fruit, right? Why would you do it otherwise?
Right. And I love helping other people and other leaders, because I wouldn't be where I am without so many people lifting me up the ladder.
Right.
So I think it's good for, once you start climbing up the ladder, that you reach it back down and bring up as many people as you can.
Yeah, agree, 100%. Another element of being personable is it helps you build resilience. Yeah. All right. And resiliency is important because we all struggle. We all face challenges, and we can't wallow in our despair for very long. But when you're personable and you're intentional about being personable, and you've built that strong network, you've got others who can help kind of pull you up, right? Yeah. Encourage you. Be the encourager and help bring you out of the negative, whatever it is that you're feeling, maybe a little faster than you would on your own, because you've got that influence, that positive influence in your life. And it gives you the opportunity to bounce back maybe a little bit faster because you've built out that network by being a personable individual and engaging with others in a positive framework.
And being personable, I think, 'cause most of the time I'm in a good mood because I don't let the external factors affect how I'm feeling, but a lot of it goes back to faith as well. Yeah. There's just, I don't know, so many different facets, but I agree about the resiliency. But when you're able to have those communications where being personable and empathetic, a lot of times that works when you're supervising people. One of the things I used to talk to my staff about is you can't just talk to your subordinates when it's you're giving them a directive or you're disciplining them, right? So I was able to have these really hard conversations. I've even fired some people that I'm still friends with because we had that relationship and we had that built-in trust where they realized it wasn't something personal, work performance. And they've even come back and said, hey, my life's better for it. I actually finished school, or that was a really hard time in my life.
You can't, I hear what you're saying. You can't engage with people only when you need something from them. Yeah. Right. You've got to be there for them when they need you. Yes. Right. Or just be with them.
Or just check in. Right. Say hi every day.
Yeah. And it's so easy as a leader. I feel that of falling into I call it a negative side, but a side of the relationship where you're only engaging when something's got to get done, right? Or you need something, or you got to hold somebody's hand, or you got to discipline somebody. And if that's all of your interaction, you're going to really struggle.
It's not going to be a good relationship.
No. And for you to be able to say that you fire people you're still friends with, that says a lot about who you are as an individual and that relationship that you had prior to that moment in time, right? Because then you could sustain kind of that negative piece because they knew that you cared about them.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely did. Yeah. And going back to what you were talking about being intentional, I'll tell you, I faltered a couple of times probably more than a couple, but during COVID. So I was someone who would go in and greet everyone in the building, check in, see how everyone's day was. But it was, we had a 2,000% at least increase in impact. And, all these different logistical and fundraising needs. So sometimes I would go straight to my office, and I didn't realize how it was affecting people until people started trickling in. They said, are you upset with me?
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would you think that? And then I realized it's because I change in behavior. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's good to have people point those things out.
It is.
But then I realized I do need to be more intentional.
But I think that's a good example of people willing to come to you and talk to you about it because you had a good relationship.
Yeah.
Right? You worked for a long time to develop those relationships, and they felt comfortable coming in and saying, hey, what's going on? Right. And it's completely excusable and understandable during COVID to have a behavior change, because that was a train wreck for all of us.
Wasn't
right?
It
flipped our whole world upside down, and we all had to kind of grow through that. But I think those of us that had the personable attributes going into that were able to adjust and adapt and lean into the relationships that we had throughout the community in order to be successful. Because I think back in my experience, it was the relationships that I had through the YMCA network of people that we were on the phone, on Zoom calls, talking with each other all the time, sharing our experiences and helping pull each other kind of through that experience. Because we built up those relationships, and we were very intentional about doing that over the years. Didn't know what was coming or how they were going to be utilized, but it helped us kind of get through that process, which I think talks about the resilient piece.
Well, even our relationship and our collaboration, you gave us a couple of staff and a bus because all of a sudden we went from 1,000 people on Meals on Wheels to 1,500.
Yeah, to deliver some food, and we need to put some people to work.
So it was a perfect collaboration. We had quite a few in town with Phoenix and even the Country Club. They gave us their sous chef to volunteer because they had to close their doors. So.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's pretty cool. All right, so the final piece then for this discussion is how a personable attitude or strong personality produces personal growth.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it does that because when you're personable, when you're intentional, it helps you become more self-aware, right, of who you are as an individual. It's going to help you develop emotional intelligence, all of those things that's just going to make you a better person over time. It's going to make you a better leader. It's going to engage you with more people, going to help you be more successful, which is the whole point of it, right? Is we want to be more successful in everything that we do. Hopefully it's because we're out engaging and serving others in our community. But I think that's kind of an important piece too.
That's actually what we started hiring for at Neighborhood House, and what I carried with me is really looking at being personable, but really that emotional intelligence. Are they empathetic? Are they aware of their own strengths and weaknesses? And because you can train anyone to do any type of skill, right? But you can't train to have the right attitude or come in to work with a good attitude or work well with others. Because, in the nonprofit world, not only are we collaborating with other agencies, but also we have a lot of different departments sometimes within our own organization.
Yeah. Same thing at the Y. We hire people because of their attitude and their personality and all of those things. Because we can train them how to run a youth sports program or train them how to run an after school program, give them some of those skills, but they got to want to work with people. They got to want to be around people. They got to have a friendly face, right? Even when things aren't necessarily feeling so friendly, right? You still got to be able to engage with people in that way. And I think it's so, so important. And when you're intentional about developing your own personableness, then it's you can build off of that because of that intentionality.
And sometimes you got to get outside your comfort zone. Like when I first started pushing my directors out the door for sustainability, right? You got to go make your own friends so that if any one of us leaves, people still support. Right. And some of them weren't really comfortable with that initially, but they all just thrived once they get out there. Yeah,
but most people do. I mean, we all thrive on human connection.
Absolutely.
Right. That's why
it's a basic need.
That's why God made us, is to be with others. And when we're intentional about our relationships with others, we not only make ourselves better, but we make others better. And that makes the world around us better, which is what we're supposed to do. So, good stuff. Good discussion. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
For joining me. It's been a while since we had you on the show, and it's always good to have you back, and look forward to having you back some other time, too, down the road. Well, hopefully this has been helpful for all of you out there. We appreciate you joining us today here on our community, and we look forward to seeing you next time.